accountability. So, Shannon, what was your reaction to the verdict?
Skip, as they were deliberating for the second day, it's only had been, by the time I got home, 7, 8, 9 hours maybe. And I found myself getting anxious. I found myself, and I think a lot of other people, Skip, it kind of reminded you of the OJ trial, how people were just sitting around waiting for the verdict.
O.J. Simpson.
Yep. What's it going to be? I think the difference between this, Skip, is that the OJ trial was divided right down racial lines. Mm-hmm. You had one side, the whites wanted a guilty verdict, blacks wanted an acquittal. In this, I found myself watching as they're panning, as they're going around, the news networks are going around the country. I saw more and more young, old, black, white, Asian, Latino community bonding, wanting a conviction. LeBron summed it up. I'm not going to use the term justice. I'm going to use the term accountability.
Yep.
For me, hopefully, George Floyd's family gets some measure of relief knowing that the person responsible for taking this man away from them is being held accountable. And they get some finality because, Skip, there are so many others, from Sandra Bland to Philando Castile to Eric Garner to Alton Sterling to Walter Scott, that the perpetrator didn't have to face accountability.
Yep.
So we get some accountability. Skip, this is a pebble in the ocean because far too many have not been held accountable. Far too many have been able to do this with impunity. They don't have to worry about anything. Skip, there's a young lady. She was 17 years old at the time, Darnella Frazier. I want to give her flowers because you and I know, and the world know, had she not taped this, had this not been on video, Derek Chauvin would not be held accountable. Derek Chauvin would have still been a police officer, and he still would have been out there terrorizing the community because he put none of what transpired in his actual report. Skip, he said, guy resisted. He had some kind of medical emergency. No weapons were found at the time. The weapon that you used, Derek Chauvin, was your knee. You never mentioned that you had your knee on this man's neck for 10 minutes. Skip, and for, I can't celebrate. 12 men in jury, 12 men and women in a jury doing with the right thing. Skip, that was the only verdict. You watched a man die on national television. And we're on edge. You know why we're on edge? We watched a man like Rodney King get beat for over 20 minutes. And a non-guilty verdict came back. And I'm like, man, please.
That was also captured on video.
Captured on video.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. You're exactly right. So, Skip, the anxiousness that blacks feel when something like this happens. Skip, we're waiting for the Trayvon Martin. We're waiting. We're waiting for so many others and not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
Yep.
And then I was worried about, well, maybe they just come back on the lesser included. But all three. Skip, it's just, I was talking to a friend of mine last night, Skip, and I said, this kind of reminds you of slavery. The institution of slavery was still in place, but you'd have one or two that would escape to the north. But what was really accomplished, Skip, when the institution of slavery still existed, when there are so many others that were still captured. So until this institution, this police system, until it's broken down and repaired, Skip, I'm not for that to fund the police because we need them. But the way they do business, the way they interact in our communities, that needs to change. And until that change, you're going to have this, Skip. You're still grieving and you see what happened in Ohio. You're still grieving and you see what happened again in Minnesota and Chicago. So until the system is completely overhauled, I don't know how you say, okay, this is no. I remember talking to Steven Jackson, Skip Stacks, who still does some things for us occasionally. And I was asking him, I say, Stacks, did you ever think George Floyd would know he would be loved like he's loved now, and he would be known around the world? Stacks said, hell no. But that's what he is, Skip. He is, on a different set of circumstances, he's known like Emmett Till for the civil rights when he lost his life down there for what he did. That George Floyd is going to be remembered like that, Skip. And I know, and you get this, Skip, they try to dirty the man up and he had drugs in his system, but you got to take a man as he is as you found him, Skip.
Yep.
Skip, I can't run into somebody, kill them, and they find out he had cancer, well, he died because of cancer. No, he wasn't died at that moment. It was the impact of my carelessness, your recklessness. Skip, And I see so many people celebrating, and I can't celebrate because I can't celebrate people doing the right thing. I can't celebrate Chauvin doing what he did, being held accountable. Now, hopefully, that is the standard moving forward. Hopefully, police officers understand you will be held accountable for your actions. This being able to move with impunity. Those things, hopefully, I hope these are a thing of the past. This is a thing of the past. I'm not so sure, Skip. I'm not gonna, get into no celebratory mood until we see federal and state level changes in the police system. Then I'm gonna start to celebrate. But this is for the family. George, we can't bring George back, and I'm sorry, we can't. No amount of money, no amount of he can get 100 years, can't bring him back. But hopefully, this gives you a level of comfort knowing that the person responsible for this is going to be held accountable for his actions.
Yep. All very well said. Now it's my turn. I cannot see this or feel this the way you just saw it and felt it. I have a whole lot to say about it, but it's from my point of view, and so please take it or leave it as strictly my point of view from this side of this table. The very first day we addressed this incident in Minneapolis, which was in late May of 2020, I felt like I plunged and I called it a murder.
Yeah.
Because it was just a flat out, on video, 9.5 minutes of a murder that you got to see from sea to shining sea to shining sea because it went worldwide.
Yes.
And for all the world shamefully to see, George Floyd got murdered by a cop who just all but spat arrogance on that video as he looked at the videotaper with immunity of a cop who's saying, I'm above the law because I am the law.
Correct. I have the power.
I have the power, and my knee is in his neck, and I know exactly what I'm doing to this man. And I believe there was some relationship that they had in the past from that club that he worked at night on various nights. And he wanted to literally take his pound of flesh, and he took it and took it and took it until that man lost his life. Right for all the world to see. It was in broad daylight.
Yep.
So for me, the verdict, which was reached fairly quickly, was a foregone conclusion. That's murder.
Right.
At least they added, took a while, but they added the one charge that was the charge, which was second-degree unintentional murder. But at least that was part of the 3 charges, right?
Yes.
The other 2 were third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. So the jury returns guilty, guilty, guilty.
Right.
How could it be anything but?
Right. And you got to get it unanimous. One person hangs the jury.
One person hangs the jury. And to the jury's credit, it did the obvious right, which is guilty, guilty, guilty.
Correct.
And I guess I was somewhat relieved because how many times have we seen mixed... I guess I had a little bit of nagging fear in the back of my psyche
of course you did.
that 2 of the 3 would come back guilty, but maybe the second-degree unintentional murder would be not guilty.
Because sometimes jury compromise. Okay, we'll say this, but we'll let them off of that. Skip, because you know why you felt uneasy? Because you've been around a long time and you've seen it with your own eyes. Like, man, they killed that man and he got off.
They killed that man. So I hark back to Rodney King. We're here in Los Angeles now, 30 years later.
Yes.
And 4 cops just beat the you-know-what out of him. On video.
On video. That was really the first one.
And got acquitted.
Yes.
All 4 got acquitted, and it led to riots here in Los Angeles. We're sitting on the west side of Los Angeles, not too far from here. 63 people were left dead by those riots post-Rodney King verdict. 2,300 people were injured. More than 12,000 people were arrested, and more than $1 billion worth of damage was done 30 years ago to this city because of that. And it was necessary that that happened. I get it. I don't love it. I don't endorse it, but it needed to happen. And here we went, and we don't have enough show. We could spend the rest of our show talking about all the incidents that have happened, starting with the one that I first talked about on TV, which was Trayvon Martin.
Right.
And then here we went.
Right.
And it's still going because Dante Wright just happened. Same city, same area.
Right.
Okay, so I understand what you say about it's no time to celebrate. And I always hesitate on television talking about race because there are no absolutes. There's still gray area when we talk about race. But I'm not talking about celebrating yesterday as in let's party until the sun comes up. I'm talking about just a little bit of satisfaction that the right thing finally got done.
Right.
In bigger picture, you know, you can say pebble in ocean. I'm going to say at least a boulder got thrown in the ocean. And remember, a boulder in the ocean is still not much.
Right.
Okay? A pebble's a lot less, but it felt more boulderish into the ocean to me, in that there was at least some splash that's going to splash across this country to send what I believe is still a powerful message to all the potentially racist cops who are still employed because they got hired before there was any Black Lives Matter. And you know and I know they're still out there.
Of course.
Closet racists, or maybe they're out of the closet racists. And they're still a threat to the black community and to the kids who might get pulled over. And I'm just hoping that a deeper, more powerful message got sent yesterday. This will not be acceptable anymore.
Right.
There, as LeBron tweeted, accountability.
Skip, I think that's all we've ever wanted.
Yep.
If a black person does something, they're going to be held accountable.
Yep.
You know, you rob a bank, you hold up a liquor store, you shoot someone, and I get it. But Skip, the people are like, well, what about our black on black crime? Black citizens of Chicago are not sworn to an oath to protect and serve. So therefore, you can't equate a police officer killing a black unarmed person to a black civilian shooting another black civilian. But it's black kill blacks, white kill whites, Asian kill Asian. You hunt, Skip, in the community. That's why lions eat wildebeest.
Yeah.
They don't eat penguins.
Yeah.
They don't eat seals because that's not what's in their proximity. They eat what's in their proximity. You kill what's in your proximity. So for me, Skip, until I see changes at the state level, in which the way police do business, then I'll say, you know what, Skip, you're right. That when we talked about the George Floyd, you say maybe this was the boulder in the ocean, and we saw the rippling of it. Then, and at the federal level, when we see changes, wholesale changes with the way the police interact with us in our communities, then I'm going to agree with you. Then I'm going to celebrate and says, and maybe black men and women won't have to have the conversation that our white counterparts never have to have with their kids. Never have to say, make sure you make no sudden movement. Make sure you put two hands or put your hands out the window. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Conversations that we have that our counterparts never have to have.
Got it. So you and I on a daily basis sit across from each other and we debate sports.
Yes.
And yet, the sports world had a lot to do with what happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
All the powerful voices, starting with LeBron James in the sports world, had impact on that jury yesterday. Foremost, Colin Kaepernick had impact on that jury. He professionally died for this cause. He gave up his chosen profession, his dream come true of playing quarterback in the National Football League. He gave it up to protest just this.
Correct.
The killing by white cops of unarmed black women and men that has gone on for years and years, gone on for far too long. And Colin finally said, enough. Enough. I'm going to first not stand up for it. I'm going to sit down for it. And then he knelt for it. And he lost his job because of it. And it was impactful. And the ripples from that are going to be felt for years and years. And I wanted to thank him publicly for what he sacrificed for that to happen, because you know it started right there.
It did.
Black Lives Matter was already a movement, obviously, but but it fed off that.
Right.
It was fueled by what Colin Kaepernick did. A quarterback in the world of sports can have that much impact on real life. And this is about the realest life that we ever talk about.
Yeah, sometimes, Skip, a movement can be in place. Dr. King had his movement. The civil rights movement was going strong late 50s, early 60s, but it gained the traction that it absolutely needed when they killed those two white, those clergymen from up north. When they came down, they're like, hold on, wait, this is a new ball game now. Skip, it was so outrageous. I find it, I don't know if I want to use the word ironic, because Colin Kaepernick took a knee to protest police brutality and the unequal treatment of people of color, minorities in America. The very knee that that Chauvin kneeled on this man's neck for 10 minutes. He was so, and they tried to give you all this, Skip, but the crowd was angry. He had his hands in his pocket. If you feel a threat, I promise you, I don't know how many people have ever been in a fight, but if you feel threatened, you don't put your hands in your pocket. You at attention. He had his hands in his pocket. He's looking around. He ain't worried about no threat. He's like, I'm in charge. There's nothing you can do. I'm the judge. I'm the jury. I'm God. In this moment, I'm God. Because I can do something that nobody else can do at this very moment. I can take your life. And the jury, they looked at that, Skip, if you go to look, it's not that, as one of the prosecuting attorneys said, it's all about common sense. About common sense. The man had been dead for 4 minutes. One of the police officers said, we need to turn him on the side. No, we're going to leave him right here. Even when the EMT arrived, he still had his knee on the man's neck, Skip, and they didn't render aid until after the fact. Pulmonologist said he had been dead for 4 minutes. Coming back from that. So it was just common sense, Skip, the accountability, and that's all we've ever wanted. Somebody commits an act, hold them accountable like you would a normal person. That's it.
So I don't want to be rose-colored glasses today. I don't want to be absurdly over-the-top hopeful here, but can I just say I'm a little hopeful that this is a watershed moment? I told you during Black Lives Matter protests, as the vestiges and remnants of racism came down one after another, I'm talking about the public symbols of racism, the statues, any of those sort of racist symbols from the Civil War days, the South Shall Rise Again days. I watched night after night on television the protesters march, and it just seemed to my eye that there were at least as many white kids as black people. And I know they were mostly kids, some older white people, but Stan Van Gundy said yesterday that his 20-something-year-old kids are fully engaged in Black Lives Matter. I just think that's hopeful, because I do think the kids today, thanks to the passing of George Floyd, the sacrifice he had to make for this, can't get him back, but at least it happened, and it has lasting impact. He will go down in history. Colin Kaepernick has gone down in history, obviously. And I believe that there are generations now coming up of white kids who did get woke, maybe starting with this video that we saw of this murder.
But Skip, when we really break it down and we go back, this has been going on, let's say the civil rights movement started in the 60s, so we're 60 years past that. What's actually changed besides camera quality?
Oh, that's changed,
That's it. We still, Skip, the very thing that Dr. King and so many had given their lives for in the 60s, and people fought for in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, here we are, 60 years later, and we're still fighting. And we're going to say, you know what, maybe, and I'm sure this is...
What's changed to me, and this is a white perspective, is that so many white people are now receptive to what you're talking about who weren't in Dr. King's day.
I appreciate them being receptive, Skip, but now let's put some pressure on people that we've sent to state and federal and the national level to enact change in the laws, in the rules.
It has to become tangible. It has to become,
yes.
I got it.
But to say it, because I hear a lot of, Skip, this is what we know. I've never seen so many people quote Dr. King as they do now. And when he was alive, he was the most hated man in the world, 10 times. It wasn't even close. Nobody else was close to Dr. King. And the very people that spoke out against him and basically was responsible for him taking his life quote him on a daily basis. But they used that. They used Dr. King's quotes to try to keep, Skip, that power. And once you have it, it's hard for you to let it go. The police have been doing business like this for such a long time, Skip, and the union, they're not going to want to let it go. They're going to fight you tooth and nail.
Yeah.
But we can't be deterred by them wanting to hold on to it when we know what's right. The jury knew what was right. They did what was right. A lot of times juries know what's right, but they don't do what's right. I commend them for doing what was right, because, Skip, we saw it. Hell, they shouldn't even took they should have went there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, come on. What did we see on tape? The man for 10 minutes, even after he had stopped moving.
Yep.
I thought, well, Skip, once the threat has been dissolved, okay, now we move on.
Got it. Final thought. About 2 months from now, the sentencing will come down, and I want this man punished to the full extent of the law. And the way I understand it, of the 3 charges, the most serious one, obviously, is the second-degree unintentional murder charge, which can carry a sentence up to 40 years.
Right.
Prosecution will ask for more than 40 years, but at least 40 needs to be sentenced.
Well, guess what, Skip? I mean, you're a police officer. You got to put your knee on somebody's neck in prison. You got to do that. But you know what they're going to do? They'll probably send him out of state. They'll probably put him in Kentucky. He's not going to be in general. He's not going to be in GPOP. He won't last. I mean, but now they have prisons for corrections officers, because they found out what was transpiring. Can they find out, Skip? It's amazing how they find out what you're in there for, who you are. They know all that. So, hey, Derek Chauvin, we're going to find out how tough you are. We get an opportunity to see just how tough you are in that place.
Yep.
Guys, I feel relief along with you, but sadness still. I think the images of George Floyd's family and the emotion and just what they've been through over the last couple months. Obviously, this is my hometown. I'm not living in Minneapolis, but you see the images, and there is still a community that needs our support there. But I do hope that this verdict is a step in the right direction. But it's hard, because I just still feel such a sense of sadness for George Floyd, because it doesn't change what happened to him. And I am just praying for his family, because I know that the verdict is out, but the pain doesn't go away for them. And I want to reiterate what LeBron said. I think accountability, that's the word I'm going to continue to keep talking about and thinking of today.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.